What's up, friends, and welcome into Fantasy Pros, the football podcast. I am Chris Welsh. That is Andrew Erickson. Where's Ryan Wormley? There's no Ryan Wormley today. Wormley's down in the dumps, but he's going to be better anytime. Like maybe tomorrow. Maybe as soon as we're done with the show and he doesn't have to do the show with us, Erickson, he's going to feel right as rain. That's what I assume is going to go on. But we are holding down the fort, and we have got buys, we've got sells, and we've got trades. We've got the whole kit and caboodle here for you today. We're going to be going and talking RBs, and I'm excited to do so. We've also got some little 3-player debates of buy, sell, hold throughout this entire thing. You can find Erickson on the Twitters at Andrew Erickson _. You can find me at Is It The Welsh. But before we kick this off, we always like to kind of jam back in for a couple other pieces of news. Erickson, the Jets held Aaron Rodgers and sold Robert Saleh, as we got news that Robert Saleh is out. It's week 6, just turned the corner. I did not have that on my coach being fired card that we were going to lose Robert Saleh as the first guy.
I also did not. I thought that was going to be Dennis Allen, which has no longer been the case, even though the Saints didn't exactly look great on Monday Night Football.
Or how about Antonio Pierce? Antonio Pierce still has a gig and Saleh's out.
Yeah, Saleh's out. The Jets knew they needed to make a move, and I think this is showing you who's in charge around the New York Jets, and it's Mr. Aaron Rodgers, or should I say, not quarterback of the Jets, but CEO of the New York Jets, Aaron Rodgers. For me, look, it remains to be seen how this impacts the offense, because that's what we really care about. I know that they promoted the defensive coordinator to be the interim head coach. Nathaniel Hackett is still in his role as the offensive coordinator. We all have been very uninspired, I'd say, by this offense 5 weeks through the season with Hackett and Rodgers in this combination, but Hackett is still Rodgers' guy. I think that at least in the short term, you're going to get that dead cat bounce where you see teams just, someone gets fired, the players rally, even if it's only for the short term. They're going to play well against Buffalo this week. I feel pretty confident about that. I don't know what's going to be like the rest of the season. I also feel really confident that Adams is going to be a Jet. I really think that this move is going to happen. So I think that Garrett Wilson now becomes a player you want to sell before this move lands, because I think it's a bad move for his fantasy stock, because now you have Lazard and Adams, 2 of Rodgers' guys in this offense. So I think that that's not a great thing. But for Breece Hall, as we're talking about running backs on this show, I think he's a buy. I think he is a buy, because if this offense is overall better, then I think Breece Hall is going to be the one that benefits the most from overall offensive output increasing. The last 2 weeks I know have been bad, but they've been 2 of the best defenses in the NFL between the Broncos and Vikings. So I think that's overemphasizing how bad Hall has been. So he would be a buy low for me, where Garrett Wilson, I think I put him on the block and try to get out before this Adams deal goes down.
I almost put him on my list today of running backs, was Breece Hall. It's a little bit tough. It's been an abysmal 2 weeks. But, like you said, I think that's maybe also something to look at. You can look at like the full scope of the team, but also if you got a guy like Breece Hall and you can't get him involved and you can't get him going, what are you doing as a coach? So, you get a defensive coordinator in there, good old D guy. What's he going to do? Probably run the ball, pound the ball. That's what you're going to hope for. So Garrett Wilson's a really interesting one, because I want to be a buy on, that huge, ridiculous target share that we saw. Aaron Rodgers wants to get him the ball, but I can't deny if Davante Adams is there, that changes the scope of it. Unless the team really becomes like a really high-flying passing team, it still probably doesn't help. But you can get some of that coverage to come off of. So that's a little speculative. Maybe Wilson is in the trade territory, but I'm just not sure it's worth doing it off of 1 week on speculation at this point. I think if Adams were to not be traded, I think Garrett Wilson's still a firm buy, because I don't think his value has bounced back. But Breece Hall seems like the obvious one right here for us to focus on in that big move. And we'll see what Saleh does. Have a little vacation. And Aaron Rodgers, he won again. It's always Aaron Rodgers. Just it's a Highlander rule. There can only be one, and it will always be Aaron Rodgers. We also are coming off of Monday Night Football, where what year were we living in that Monday Night Football game where Kareem Hunt was the back and Juju Smith-Schuster looked like old school Pittsburgh Steelers? I don't even know what we just saw. And we got the question in the Fantasy Pros Discord earlier the week. Should we consider Juju Smith-Schuster with the news that Rashee Rice is now officially out for the season? You never say never, but we look at that and we go, you don't go in on Juju. Like, what are we doing here? And he bounced back. So we're buy, we're sell, we're holds, we're trades. I ask you, are we buying Juju Smith-Schuster after this performance?
I don't think so. I think I'm going to be probably a little bit more hesitant to buy after this massive Monday night game everybody was watching. Juju Smith-Schuster was on the Patriots at one point. He wasn't good enough to be on the Patriots. Maybe that was a mistake by New England based on how bad their receivers are in this current state of form. Smith-Schuster's issue has always been this injury with him and this nagging knee injury. Maybe he's healthy now. Maybe he's not. That's kind of the long-term concern. I think maybe in the short term, both guys make a lot of sense as buys. But when we're talking fantasy playoffs, when we're talking down the stretch, is it going to be the Juju Smith-Schuster and Kareem Hunt show for the Kansas City Chiefs? I'm a little hesitant to buy into that. So given that the Chiefs are on a week 6 bye week, I don't want to be over aggressive grabbing a guy like Juju. But it is pretty clear that, at least in the short term, Juju is in that Rashee Rice role. That's the role that's been so good, seeing all those underneath targets, getting yards after the catch, which has kind of been Smith-Schuster's bread and butter. And we've seen him have somewhat success in this offense before a couple years ago when he was that kind of beta wide receiver one in this offense behind Travis Kelce. So I'm not going to be over aggressive with Juju. I think that he's definitely worth bidding on to put on your bench, especially in deeper wide receiver formats. But I think for him to be your savior at receiver, I think that's probably a little aggressive.
Well, sure. But in the waiver conversation that's happening this week, I think the two running backs really dominate it. And then there's Josh Downs that kind of sits in there as well. Do you think Juju is in the same tier of Josh Downs as far as pickups go? Because I think that might, when people start to understand this week's waivers and the cost analysis, since Juju kind of comes in a little bit later, do you think he belongs in those tiers, or is he a tier below? Like, you also have like a guy like Jordan Whittington, who's going, I believe, on the bye, who's a tough kind of pickup, but he's getting targets. Like, that could be one that's inspiring. Is he above Whittington and below Downs, or is he in the same Downs tier? What do you think?
So I think he's below Downs. I think that the fact that he is on a bye week matters. You're going to pick up a guy, and then you're only going to be able to keep him on your bench. You can't use Juju this week because the Chiefs aren't playing. So I think that he's more in that Jordan Whittington tier as a stash player. I think that if you lost Rice and you can kind of finally drop him now based on the news and Juju's the best available, then that's the guy you pick up. That's what I would do. But I think that he is still in that second tier behind guys like Downs. I think I'd rather have Tolbert, Michael Wilson, some of these other players that I know are healthy, have been active, have shown out for more than just one game this year. So that's kind of my read on it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think he's too far down from there. Like, I think it's worth speculating. Though the problem is the Chiefs offense just spatters the ball around to a lot of different people. For one, that's not Rashee Rice to really like jump up. I think it's a question. And also for Xavier Worthy to not, become a bigger facet of this offense is a question. He might be a buy low right now, because after that performance, people are going to be like, oh, he didn't get the Rashee Rice role. Now I don't, then people start freaking out. The last one on this, what about Kareem Hunt? This is now the second straight week. Carson Steele, bye-bye. It is Kareem Hunt. He got much more of the workload. He's not really a waiver conversation, but after seeing 2 weeks of what he's done, do you buy Kareem Hunt presumably through the rest of the season, or, until Pacheco comes back, however we're going to see it? Are you buying this version of Kareem Hunt, and does he need to be like maybe a mid RB2 moving forward?
I think so. I think that's probably right where he should be valued, as a mid RB2, maybe kind of the cheaper discount version, probably very discount version of a Jordan Mason, where we know the starter's going to come back at some point, but he got a lot of volume last night. I know that it wasn't him ripping off massive runs, and it took a while for him to get there, but he accumulated the yardage, got over 100 yards, took 27 carries, but we still got there. He still scored the touchdown. They trust him. So at this point, they feel confident he's the guy they're going to rely on. We expect the Chiefs offense to score points. So especially if you are in need for running back help right now, Kareem Hunt is definitely a buy, even though they are on a bye week. I do think that Kareem Hunt is the short-term value play, and he's going to be inside the top 20 running backs probably every single week moving forward.
He's like the Wandale of running backs. It's like Wandale, it takes 11 catches to get 74 yards. It's going to take 25 to 30 carries for Kareem Hunt to get over 80. But volume, we'll take volume. CEH was not active in that, and it was all Kareem Hunt. So, okay, there you go. That's a sell on Juju, it sounds like. That's a buy on Kareem Hunt. Well, That's a buy in the grand scope of it, but it is not our official play. So let's dig into some running backs here. This is our running back buy, sell, trade, hold, all of that, buy, sell, trade. We are going to start with our RBs to buy. And because I'm hosting today, I always get thrown in first. No, that's not happening today. Andrew Erickson, kick us off with the running back you're looking to buy.
So I'm going to buy Javonte Williams. He's had back-to-back strong games after a pretty slow start to the season where we weren't sure if he was going to continue to be the RB1 for the Denver Broncos. Maybe Tyler Beatty was going to take a bigger role in this rushing attack. But Javonte Williams has showed out the last 2 weeks. He has 18 plus touches in back-to-back games, 11 forced missed tackles over that span. I think that the reason he is a buy and he's attainable is because he hasn't found the end zone yet, but he's been seeing usage around the goal line. I know a couple of the other running backs have found the end zone, and Williams has kind of just got unlucky, honestly, with some of his red zone attempts, but he's the preferred guy. 63% snap rate was his highest since week 2. Nobody is clamoring for this Denver Broncos offense to be this high-powered attack, but that's why Javonte is, you can get him. You can trade him and acquire him in an offense where he led the team in targets last week. He has a confirmed locked and loaded pass catching role. So I think the floor is super high with Javonte Williams, given the increased rushing efficiency, given his role as a pass catcher out of the backfield, and the fact that the Broncos offense is starting to improve week by week. They have a great defense, so they like to complement that with a strong run game. And I think Javonte has really kind of shown that he is the guy, and you're starting to see it over the last 2 weeks kind of come to fruition. So Javonte, after being really down on him the first 3 weeks of the season, it's trending upwards, and I want to try to catch this upward trajectory before he has that big game and then it becomes even more expensive. So I like Javonte Williams as a buy low.
It's really interesting because like I said this on the Out of Bounds show that we do, is podcast only on our Discord, fantasypros.com/chat, where you guys can come and hang out. I'd said that I don't think there is a starter with the Broncos right now that you can like comfortably start in fantasy week in and week out. Sutton, there's air yards there, but he just doesn't get the targets. Javonte has started to kind of pick this up. What I think is interesting about this one, I'm not fully co-signing this because I just don't think this offense is great. I don't think there's great volume.
Co-sign a Denver Broncos running back.
I'm so sorry that I can't get those Denver Broncos in my lineup, but we have been inundated, and this is a very big product of like bye weeks right now, where all of these people, especially that we're getting in our Fantasy Pros community, they're like, I've got all these receivers. I need running back depth. What do I do? Every other question is about trying to get some acquisition of running backs for their, really, most of the time it's like for an RB2 or for depth. Maybe Javonte Williams is that guy. I just worry a little bit long-term. Jaleel isn't, something to really be scared of, but it's more about this offense and them humming. Like Bo Nix was fine this weekend, but he wasn't great, and it still didn't equate to like monster fantasy outputs. Do you think trading like a wide receiver like Josh, would you trade Josh Downs for Javonte Williams?
Yes, this would be a classic case of you have a wide receiver on your bench that you're not really using, or someone that flashed you picked up off the waiver wire, flip him for Javonte, who maybe in a vacuum you do like the receiver more, but based on your specific lineup needs and your roster needs, you have to start 2 running backs. And it's either Javonte or a backup on some other team that you have no idea what the usage is going to be. I feel more confident about Javonte than these other dual backfields with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers backfield, the Jaguars backfield, where you're trying to figure out who is the guy to own this particular week. It flip-flops every single week, but at least right now, final last words, I feel like Javonte is the guy until he's not.
So I'm gonna pretend that now I'm gonna be like Worm. This is the other host. I'm gonna go. So Welsh.
Ravens.
Yeah, Ravens. No, this is going to be... So, Welsh, last week, you made kind of a great call on this show. And you said, buy Tank Bigsby. So first, Welsh, let's just give you credit for that. And I'll go back over and I'll go, well, thank you, not Worm. I really appreciate that because Tank Bigsby was quite the call and it worked out. So, yay, hat tip to me. I did say I would sell Josh Jacobs, which kind of sucked. I'm not going to go as deep this week. I gave you guys my deep play last week. We're going to go with a higher name for my buy, but it's coming off of a really bad performance. He's had some missed games this year. I love buying Ken Walker right now. So you can get your low-end play in Javonte Williams from Erickson. I am trying to go out there and find the Walker owner and see if they're a little bit disenchanted right now, because Walker still has a lot of the makings of an elite running back. He is 8th in the league in explosive run percentage at 13%, but he is number 2 in the league of backs that have got 30 or more carries overall. He's pairing that with a 3.8 missed tackles per rush attempt, which I know that doesn't feel like a big number, but it's number 1 among running backs that have actual attempts. Number 1 is actually Tyler Goodson, but and whatever carries those are. And then it's Ken Walker. It's kind of actually like what we talked about with that great Bigsby call. Thank you, not Worm, because what was the thing I was selling on Bigsby? High explosive run percentage that was paired with a guy that's forcing missed tackles and getting yards after contact. That's what's happening here. He's top 10 in the league in yards after contact, and almost 60% of his yards are coming after taking a hit. And I already told you he's one of the leaders in explosive run percentage. He had 20 carries in week 1. Then he's combined 17 in his last 2 games played. It's a perfect buy low, because also Charbonnet was out there kind of making people a little bit worried. They're ramping him back up. It was a horrible, they could not get any established run game going. I think it was 6 carries for Walker this week and then 2 for Charbonnet. But once they reestablish this crazy passing offense with Seattle, they're going to get back to Walker and they're going to get back to big carries. I think this is a great opportunity for maybe a guy that is in the perception of a 20 range RB that has upside, maybe even further down, that's got into the teens upside. So if I'm looking to upgrade my RB, this would be a high value RB2. I'm looking at Ken Walker right now and I'm trying to make some moves. Erickson, what do you think about buying Ken Walker?
I like it a lot because Walker is checking off all the boxes that we want for a featured running back. You talked about how disappointing he was last week. Well, he was still super involved in the passing game. That was a major question mark entering this season. What is Ken Walker's usage going to be like as a receiver? He had 8 targets against the New York Giants, 7 catches, 57 yards. So despite the fact that he did nothing on the ground, he had 19 rushing yards on 5 carries in a really weird game script for the Giants. That's the other thing too, just buying on certain players. When there are just weird games, people I think overreact to, oh, well, this is the standard every single week. The Giants are going to blow out the Seahawks despite the Seahawks playing at home. That is not the norm. The norm is much more what we saw against Detroit, where he's rushing, he's making explosive plays. Not he's going to score every 3 touchdowns every single week, but he's still the guy they prefer in the red zone. So as great as Charbonnet has looked at times filling in for Walker, Walker came back. Here's the bench, Charbonnet. I'm the guy. He still has a really high snap rate. It's rare to see a player seeing this high of a snap rate with so many of these backfields turning into a committee. And Charbonnet is not a bad running back. So the fact that the team is so committed to Walker, I love this call as the approach on buying high. You look at Walker, he's been a top 21 running back all 3 weeks. Right? I know that he's missed time, obviously, which hurts. But when he's healthy, he's going to be in the conversation as a top 10 running back every single week. And because of how explosive he is, let's say 1 week he doesn't get as much volume, just takes 1 play for him to rip off a massive run. So I like him a lot. You want to buy the Seahawks offense, so I think Walker makes a lot of sense. I'm
going to throw this at you really quick. This is our buy, sell, hold, right? This is what we do with the connection of all of them always gets me, the 3 names that we do. So yeah, buy, sell, hold. Okay, so buy, sell, hold. Ken Walker, Breece Hall, Bijan Robinson. Buy, sell, hold.
Was this on the show sheet?
It was not.
You're just pulling out of the ether?
Just pulled it right out for you.
I hate you for this very tough question.
Could not prep for it whatsoever. This is on the fly, baby.
Buy, sell, hold, Walker, Bijan.
I know what I want you to say. I have it in my head what that sell is going to be, and I'm just waiting to hear it.
Do you think I'm going to say Bijan?
I think you're going to say Bijan.
I think I'm going to say Bijan to sell. I think I'm going to say Walker would be the buy or hold, probably the hold, and Breece would be the buy. I guess I'm looking at, because they're all players where you could see the path where they are a fantasy monster, etc. But Walker's really the only one that's done it so far, so I'm not going to sell him, especially off a bad game. Breece and Bijan, it's close for me between those 2 guys. I liked Breece more in the offseason. Wasn't by much, but I think I still prefer buying Brees because I think that you can probably get him at a better price. I think the Bijan hive is stronger. He costs more to get. And I don't know if his path to fantasy stardom is as clear as Brees. I think it's close. It's a tough question for sure, but hopefully I answered it for you.
No, that's great. You did an awesome job. This is why you're the man. This is why you are beloved here. It's a great answer. All of those running backs too. There's a question of that other guy that's looming around. And really, Bijan felt like the one it shouldn't be, but Algier's just kind of coming back. This is the ghost of Arthur Smith is just coming back, and Tyler Algier is getting his run. But you've got some questions with Charbonnet out there, and then the biggest one is with Breece Hall, even though he is the biggest buy, and we talked about that. So that's a very good one. We've got running backs to sell, but first, my friends, our friends at DraftKings. The roller coaster of an NFL season is moving right along, and it promises to be a month full of tricks, treats, and of course, touchdowns. That's right. And DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL, is the number one place to bet touchdowns. Running it in from the 1 or an 80-yard bomb, we don't care how they score touchdowns. We want to bet them. DraftKings heard us and is delivering. You ready to place your first bet? Try betting on something simple like the player scoring a touchdown. Go to DraftKings Sportsbook app and make your pick. Maybe you can put a little Ken Walker in there, little Javonte Williams, and the guys that we're buying. Maybe you can parlay them together. Go and check it out today. You can check out your odds and make the best bets. And here's a reason for new customers to do a touchdown dance of their own. Bet $5, get $250 in bonus bets instantly. Score big with DraftKings Sportsbook, the number one place to bet touchdowns. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code FantasyPros. That's code FantasyPros for new customers to get $200 in bonus bets when you bet just $5. Only on DraftKings. The crown is yours. Let's jump into running backs we are going to sell. So the sell didn't go super well for me as my victory lap of the buy. I then have the sell. But Erickson, tell us the victory we're going to take with the running back that we're selling this week.
I'm going to be selling New England Patriots running back Rhamondre Stevenson, coming off one of his better games of the year, despite the fact that he was benched for Antonio Gibson for the first drive. And then Gerard Mayo said, hey, get back in there. And he had a monster game. Immediately bet the live over on the rushing yards prop when I saw Gibson on the first carry have this massive run. And I said, oh, baby, they're going to be running all over the Dolphins today. And that's
what
exactly
a great bet.
And that's exactly what happened. Just looked at the first rush, was like, all right, they can create space here. Let's go for it. And it ended up smashing. It was one of those prop bets I recommended where I went going in. This makes me nervous. This doesn't feel like a lock. And in my mind, because I felt so confident about the unders on some of the other running backs, I tried to pivot, did the opposite of what my cadence would usually be, and it worked out. So when coaches are threatening to bench these running backs, expect big games, because that's been 2 weeks in a row. It's been the process that's worked. So with Stevenson, again, I want to sell players coming off of better games. And when I was looking ahead to this Miami Dolphins matchup, because we've talked about Rhamondre after 2 bad games the last couple of weeks, I looked at this as, hey, wait till the Dolphins game, and then this is where you want to get off the ride with Rhamondre Stevenson potentially, because I don't like the upcoming schedule. You have the Texans, the Jaguars, the Jets again in week 8. Patriots offensive line loses guys every single week. I am very concerned about what this offensive line can actually do creating space. They did it against Miami. Miami's defensive line is horrible. Miami's defense is bad. So this was a game where the Patriots were able to, it was a 1-point spread essentially. So it was a game where the Patriots, they should have won, right? Jalen Polk was in for the touchdown, but apparently you need a heel in and not a toe, which I did not know. I was 3 days old when I figured out that was exactly the case when it came to the Jalen Polk touchdown.
But one elbow counts as 2 feet.
And one butt equals a head. I don't know, man. I don't know. It was hogwash, in my opinion. I thought it was a touchdown.
Hey, language.
I apologize.
Thank you.
Hogwash. I will say that, so back to Stevenson, I think that when you look at, they like to get Antonio Gibson more involved here. The offensive line issues. I know we're hearing rumblings about Drake May potentially taking over at quarterback, but I just don't think this offense is going to be able to function with how bad the offensive line is set up. So I'm trying to get out from Rhamondre Stevenson if I can. I know that last week's splits with Gibson are a little inflated because of Gibson starting the game, and then Rhamondre got banged up a little bit towards the end. So it wasn't really a 50-50 split, but I just think that there are other running backs I'd rather have in better environments than in this particular matchup. I'm just not optimistic that, oh my God, I traded away Rhamondre and it killed my team. I don't think that you need to attach yourself to any Patriots long term. So for me, that's kind of why I want to get off the Stevenson ride.
I got to tell you, I had wrote this name down. I didn't look at your names and I was doing my thing. I have a separate sheet I work and I wrote Rhamondre down. I started to do the work and then I look over and you had him and I was like, there you go. It's perfect because I agree. I think he's the number one guy and it's really about the offense for me. There were some great things early on in the season. Like, he was just a missed forced tackle monster, yards after contact, just bullying. That he looked like the Walmart version of Jordan Mason for the year. But the problem is the offense is a first aid Dollar Tree type of version of an offense with the Patriots. And I just don't know what they're going to be able to move. I don't trust the quarterback play. I don't trust them being able to. You got to be able to throw the ball in some capacity to be able to establish a good running game. And then he's also fumbling. So if I believe that Stevenson was going to be locked into 20 plus carries every single game and be the workhorse guy, and they didn't have anybody else that they were going to throw out there, I'd probably feel different about this, but I don't. And we know Gibson is going to take something and Stevenson's kind of limited. So this offense is so bad. Getting those big yards off of, I'm just kind of repeating what you said here, I guess, but like getting those big yards off of a low amount of carries might get people re-excited while they're trying to buy RBs. I think it's a great opportunity to sell him. So I'm very big cosign on this one. Let's see if you're, you got any more?
Oh, sorry. I just wanted to say, talking about if we could lock him in for a Kyren Williams level-esque workload, it would be a different conversation. Where Kyren, we're seeing he's thriving, even though the Rams are down a bunch of weapons, because he touches every single ball and he gets every opportunity to score all the touchdowns in the Rams offense. And they still have Stafford. But how many touchdowns can Rhamondre theoretically score in a week? One, maybe. How many touchdowns are the Patriots going to score in a week? And then you have, I'm not confident that he's going to get back up to what we saw weeks 1 through 3, where he was seeing that 70% plus snap share.
Yeah.
Even though he did look good last week. And then you always have at the back of our minds, what if he does put the ball on the ground one more time? What happens then? And then you go from starting running back to 0 real quick. So there's just a lot of red flags around Steve.
100%. If 1 month of fumbling got him to that spot, everyone is going to be magnified and so much bigger. So I completely agree. Let's see what you think on this one. Mine isn't as pretty as yours because we can wrap Rhamondre Stevenson up in a nice little week 5 bow and we can be like, oh, look, he had the thing. This isn't super pretty, but this is, I think I'm done. And I'm selling Najee Harris. It's been trickling down. Things have been and again, this is a run heavy offense, which that was the thing to like Najee Harris about was, oh my gosh, Arthur Smith, they're going to run the ball all the time. Even when they have Jaylen Warren, it's going to be 35 carries. Yeah, Cordell Patterson's here, but we just fool ourselves. Things have been trickling down for him. He started off with 20 carries and now he's down into the low teens on multiple weeks. He's averaging around 54 yards per game with 3.3 yards per carry, which is bad. He has one of the worst explosive run rates in football. 2%. So, he is not breaking big plays, which is a massive problem. He's also not forcing missed tackles or getting significant yards after the contact. So it's what do you do here except just get carries because he's not breaking big stuff. He's not forcing extra yards. And I really think with Warren getting back healthy, we are going to see some more of him. And we already know Patterson is there. So what could have been, 35 carries in a game to a guy that could get 20, I really think is going to start moving into full 3-back shared system. I don't know if they're going to trust Najee for more than 15 carries. And guess what? He's not Rhamondre Stevenson. Rhamondre does break away these big plays and can get 12 carries and 80 yards. Najee can't. Najee needs volume. And I don't know if the volume is going to be there. So I'm putting you in a tough spot because I'm not giving you the background of a player that had a big performance that you can go sell high. But what I'm thinking is if he's still maintaining ish value in the mid 20s and you need wide receiver help and someone's looking for RB help, I'm willing to come off of Najee. I don't feel great about Najee. I don't like the Javonte Williams we were talking about earlier that much. But you know what? What's the difference? And you could trade Najee or a twofer where you're sending Najee and you're getting Javonte back. And I probably would feel comfortable with that. I think I'm just out on Najee. So he is my sell. But what do you think, Erickson? I'm kind of leaving us with not a lot of trade equity, but I'm just kind of washing my hands.
Najee has been so disappointing. Seeing all the opportunity you could want for a running back, Jalen Warren, Cordell Patterson are not in the fold whatsoever. I wasn't drafting Najee Harris because I thought that this was possible, that this could happen. But the last couple of weeks, I've been backing Najee because he's set up great. He's placed in a bad run defense. I know the Steelers' offensive line is a bit banged up, but he's getting opportunities. And Patterson was running fine until his injury a couple of weeks ago. So what's the excuse? Well, Najee is allergic to the end zone in the beginning of every season he's played. So I looked this up because I wrote about it when I was talking about Najee as a fade in draft season. In the second halves of the last 2 seasons, Najee Harris has scored 13 touchdowns compared to 2 in the first halves of seasons. So he's doing what he does every single year, where starts at the gates, does absolutely nothing, never finds the end zone, and then in the second half, he finds touchdowns. So regression eventually hits for him. But the concerns are, well, if Jalen Warren comes back, does he actually have that role anymore? Is he ever going to find the end zone? Because he hasn't necessarily lit up the box score when it comes to some of his advanced rushing metrics like you laid out. So for me, I think it does depend on what you can get. I would say if nothing is there for the taking, just wait till because he's going to find the end zone eventually at some point. And then you immediately sell high after a touchdown game. But that remains to be seen when that will happen. So if you can just get out now, I agree with you. It makes Jalen Warren. Yes, Jalen Warren. If he got dropped, buy Jalen Warren. You got to stash him on your team. You got to get him
because he's the exact opposite. He's the yin to the yang on this one. Like, he's the dude who does get yards after contact. He forces missed tackles. He makes big explosive breakaway plays. He just hasn't been healthy. And he is a guy, long term, the question would be like, what's the workload going to be? But what Najee's done has, I think, proven like you can't get 20 ineffective carries. So you're going to bring that down into the low teens. And if that trickles back to Jalen Warren, there's a big buy for him. Here's the other thing I just didn't mention. Also, Justin Fields. When Justin Fields is out there, he's going to take some of that running back share as well. So, when they're losing some of those carries and Arthur Smith is trying to make sure we get 30 plus rush attempts, that's also happening because Justin Fields is getting, 7 to 10 per game. So I'm kind of out. Interesting stat, though, on the back half of the year for touchdowns. If the Steelers kind of get that going, you just kind of worry that he just might be out of favor at that point. So I am fading and selling.
I will say on that note as well, the Steelers have a very weird quirk in their schedule this year where their opening schedule, this was the easy part of their schedule for the most part. In the second half of the year, and maybe it's changed a little bit because of the dynamics of the AFC North, they play all their divisional games in the second half. So at least when we first started the season, that seemed like it would be bad. But considering the state of the Bengals and Browns defenses, maybe it's not so bad anymore, but just kind of something that I wanted to mention when it comes to the Steelers.
And what happens to them if Fields loses one more game and then we get big game Russ coming
baby.
in? I mean, what is play? Oh, man. All right. We have got some buy, sell, holds that are happening. But first, hey, guys, low testosterone affects about 30% of adult men in America. Are you feeling the drag of fatigue, noticing a dip in muscle mass, or sensing a slump in libido? If so, it's time to get your testosterone levels tested. If you have low T, Kaisertrex is an FDA-approved pill that's changing the game in testosterone replacement therapy. In fact, Kaisertrex restored testosterone levels in nearly 9 out of 10 clinical study participants, and its unique formulation bypasses the liver to avoid liver damage. It's time to break free from injections, pellets, and gels and choose Kaisertrex and take a step forward being the hero of your life again. To see if you qualify, visit Kaisertrex.com and take the low T quiz today. That's KYZATREX.com. By prescription only, Kaisertrex is a controlled substance and can be a target of abuse. Kaisertrex is not for use in pregnant women or men with prostate or breast cancer. Safety and efficacy in those younger than 18 is not known. Tell your doctor about all medical conditions and medications. Serious side effects include increased blood pressure, worsening prostate symptoms, increased risk of prostate cancer, blood clots in the legs or lungs, decreased sperm count, liver problems, enlarged or painful breasts, and breathing problems while you sleep. Common side effects include swelling of ankles, feet, or body, increased red blood cell count, and increase in prostate-specific antigen or PSA levels. PSA is a test used to detect prostate cancer. Report these symptoms to your doctor. Call your doctor to learn more about Kaisertrex. For questions or more information, visit Kaisertrex.com or call 1-833-949-5040. RB, buy, sell, or hold. We've got a couple for you here. Erickson, Chase Brown, Rico Dowdle, and Chuba Hubbard. I love this one because I was Mr. Rico Dowdle to start, and then I jumped both feet first off of the train of Rico Dowdle, tried to bet his under, and now the Cowboys said, nope, we figured it out. It didn't seem like they had it figured out. They do. So Rico's back. Chase started getting some run this week over Moss, and Chuba Hubbard is the best of this group from performance standpoint, except Jonathan Brooks is coming back soon. So this is a really great one. This is a worm special that he put together. So buy, sell, hold, Chase Brown, Rico, Chuba Hubbard.
Always buy Chase Brown. It's always buy
Chase Brown.
Always buy Chase Brown.
All right.
Even though Zach Moss outsnapped him by significant margin again, Chase Brown is still scoring touchdowns. I want this Bengals offense. Give me Chase Brown. Rico would be my sell. It's not because I don't like him. I think it just, you get the most for him, right? That's when I always kind of look at these buy, sell, hold scenarios as well. If I can get the most for Rico, that'll be the guy I can sell with these more fringe running backs. And then Chuba Hubbard's the hold for me. Talked about all this guy does is produce. The Panthers are getting blown out and Chuba Hubbard's still producing. Yeah, Jonathan Brooks is going to come back. Prove it to me, man. Get healthy. Get on the field. Because right now we have seen nothing from Jonathan Brooks. It's more of this aura of him coming back and taking the job from Hubbard, but we've yet to see him really do anything. So until that happens, I think you can just kind of play Hubbard every single week and just keep scoring points.
So I am completely co-signing holding Chuba. I think that's a play. I think I've talked about it like with Chubb, where I think people are getting too excited about Nick Chubb, and he might even be like kind of a sell right now because I just don't know if we're going to see 20 plus carries. The same thing I think is kind of maybe existing with Jonathan Brooks. I think people feel like once he's activated and on the team, Chuba's just got a red eye out of town. And I just don't think that's the case. I think Chuba's going to keep rolling. Brooks will come in and get some run, but I think Chuba's a firm hold. I'm going to go on the opposite end though. And part of it on the buy and the sell, I'm going to buy Rico and I'm going to sell Chase Brown. To your point, though, if this is about I have to sell a player to get this great acquisition, it probably is Rico because of this bounce back, because I don't think Chase Brown gets a whole lot. But I'm doing this more from I don't really care about Chase Brown. I don't care about the running back situation in Cincinnati that much that I could move on. And that getting to see Rico get those carries and see how washed Elliott is. And once that Cowboy team really finds that efficiency, that's what I wanted. This is the Rico that I was trying to sell people on and buy myself. But then they're like, no, every other series, we're going to go Elliott and Rico. And it's like, well, this is not going to work. Now it's Rico majority of the time. So I'm going to buy what we're seeing in the offense for Rico. And I'm selling Chase Brown from I really don't care that I can't get a big acquisition for him. But I know you are very team Chase Brown.
You'll sell him to me. You'll sell
yeah.
You could. There's enough, again, going back to the Rico Dowdle, which guy you can get more for. There are enough Chase Brown believers that you could probably sell Chase Brown to.
Could we do a Rico versus Chase Brown rest of season?
I'll take that. Yeah.
Okay. So we already bet our hair. You have to shave one. I have to shave one. What's next? Grow a mustache bet?
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay.
You just got to give me a couple weeks.
Same there. Need some Kaiser tracks to test it. Get some better. You and me both, buddy. All right. One more. Buy, sell, hold. Tank Bigsby, Javonte Williams, and Austin Ekeler. So let's see if we can put to test. We have my buy from last week at RB, your buy from this week, and then Austin Ekeler, great running back, really good at fantasy. We're going to throw him into the mix here. Buy, sell, hold.
So I had Javonte as my buy, but in this scenario, I'm going to put him as my hold because I think Austin Ekeler is actually a really great buy too. He has looked fantastic this season. Every time he's touched the ball, he's looked explosive. He looks so back to what his peak performance was when he was glory days with the Chargers. Last year, it was that injury. That injury totally derailed his explosiveness, but he looks all the way back. I love this Commanders offense. And Brian Robinson, if this knee injury doesn't go away, if Ekeler takes over this RB1 role because of an injury potentially to Robinson, Ekeler would be a top 10 running back. So I think he has the most upside of all three of these guys, just because of the body of work with Austin Ekeler. It would be the first time a top 5 running back went to a different team after we all kind of written him off and then smashed. So I think Ekeler would actually be my buy here. And I think that nobody views him in this kind of, but he's just looked so good. He's looked fantastic. So I like Ekeler. And then Bigsby is my sell just because you get the most for him, number one. And after the game, Doug Peterson comes out and says, Travis is our guy, right? Yeah. And he's not going to give more carries to Tank Bigsby. He is the offensive, he's the head coach. He decides who gets the ball, and that's concerning for me. I know we love the explosive plays that Tank Bigsby has, but I'm also concerned that we look up, oh, what do you know? ETN got more carries. And as good as Bigsby has been this year, I can totally admit that, ETN hasn't been absolute trash. He's been fine. You actually look at offensive rushing success rate, ETN's is actually higher than Tank Bigsby's. Just Tank Bigsby's been ripping off these massive runs that are obviously going to boost your numbers and make you look good. So again, this is not a knock on Bigsby. He's looked great and played well this year, but the Jaguars are still committed to ETN, and he's not going to go away. So.
Yeah, but I think Peterson has like a 3% coach speak index, if we're being honest. So like, I'm gonna take that with a grain of salt. But to your point, like, you know, ETN's not going away. And that was kind of always my take. That's why this thing is on steroids at this point, because it was like, hey, I just want to buy Tank last week really low because he's showing great efficiency. And I don't think he could take over, but I think he could make himself like Bucky Irving, and he could be a flex guy. It just so happened that Tank ended up being the number one guy. I do think he kind of qualifies in the sell territory here, but I'm going to hold him. We are going to buy Austin Ekeler, which, by the way, you should have made him your buy here. You had a great case for it. I love it. I'm going to sell Javonte Williams because I already said I'm not doing the Denver Broncos situation. So sell Javonte, hold Tank, buy Austin Ekeler. Those are the buy, sell, and holds for you in all of these RB buy, sell, and holds. Friends, don't forget about our weekly trade live stream on our YouTube channel, where you can come and ask specific trade questions. We'll be with you every Wednesday at 3 p.m. Eastern, because you might have questions about these buy, sell, holds we're talking about. You can bring the Bigsbys, the Ekelers, the Javonte Williams, and more. And then for those listening on the podcast, just go to youtube.com/fantasypros. You can subscribe, then click the bell so you're notified of all of our weekly streams. Friends, thank you so much for hanging out with us right here for the RB buy, sell, and hold. For Andrew Erickson, I am Chris Welsh. We'll talk to you next time. Bye-bye.